gentlemen, it is your host with the biggest nose, JC Courtside, coming at y'all today on Thursday, January 22nd. I apologize for anybody on the TikTok or YouTube that were waiting on me. I was a bit late, had some technical difficulties, but we are fixed and ready to go. Guys, I'm sure you've probably wondered today, the NBA sucked last night. What the hell are you going to talk about? Don't worry, today's going to be a bit of a shorter episode, and I mean that. It's going to be shorter, okay? It is going to be shorter. And the main reason is because of all the blowouts from last night. But your boy did come prepared. We are going to be discussing some trending topics. We're going to be talking about some certain players and some certain teams. In fact, the live crew on Twitch actually helped me out quite a bit. I asked a few of them, can you guys give me some trade scenarios for your team? And I want to seriously talk about those trade rumors and like what works and what doesn't work and what you should stay away from as an NBA fan, especially a fan of your franchise, because it really depends on what fan of a team you are and what the trades you want and what the salaries look like. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of that in today's episode, and that's about it. We're going to go over the blowouts and, you know, any major takeaways to talk about those. So podcast listeners, before we get started, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. TikTok and YouTube chat, be sure to like the stream and subscribe. And Twitch chat, y'all know what you got to do. You guys have the most important job of them all. All you guys got to do is sit back, relax, grab a cup of coffee, and enjoy the show. Let's get started with one topic in particular, and we're not starting with the games. In fact, we're starting with something very different. Is it time for Giannis Antetokounmpo to finally call it quits on Milwaukee? Listen, I've already spoken quite a bit about this. I've spoken about this. And I do not believe that Giannis will be traded in the next, 15 days? It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen in the next 15 days. But in the offseason, I very well see this happening. This is really unfortunate that we're wasting like 3 years of Giannis's career, 3 years that we knew he wasn't going to win it all. This year, it's a wash. Last year, first rounded by the Pacers and Halliburton. The year before that, was that when Jimmy Butler did his thing? Yeah, I think it is. That's when Jimmy Butler knocked them out as the 8th seed. We've wasted 3 years, and it's really sad watching this. Like, you would think that this is Giannis's end of his career with the way that these past few seasons have gone, but it's not. In fact, I got to talk about something when it comes to Giannis Antetokounmpo in particular. I don't know if you guys have been watching these games, but as of late, Giannis is getting the least amount of shot attempts he has in his entire career. Over his last 10 games, he is only averaging about 14 field goal attempts per game. In case you guys don't know, Giannis's last 7 years, he was averaging anywhere between 20 and 30. It was normally the sweet spot was like 23 attempts per game on, incredible efficiency. For the last 10 games, he's only attempting 14 shots a game. And they asked Giannis about this last night after the game. They said, Giannis, you're still super efficient, but why is it that you're only attempting 14 shots per game over the last 10? What's going on? And he said, I don't know. Maybe the young guys think that it's their turn to shoot, and they think to themselves that, okay, it's my turn to shoot. He said, maybe I'm not being aggressive enough and demanding for the ball, but I want the ball. I want to compete, and I want to do what I've done in this league for the last 10 years. But he's more so saying that it's his teammates' fault. Something that is scaring me about Giannis is how wishy-washy this guy is. Here's what I'll say. He's definitely Greek. In case you guys don't know, my fiance, she's half Greek, half Indian. And I can tell Greek people do not like committing to one ideology. They like having multiple ideas in their head and just letting it swirl, letting it marinate, they just like thinking about these topics. And Giannis is like the same way, man. He's like the same way. He does not want to make a split decision. He's got a horrible head coach in Doc Rivers, one of the most overrated coaches in NBA history. They treat that 08 ring as if he led a dynasty. But right now, with what Giannis is doing, he's averaging 28 points per game, 10 rebounds, 5.5 assists, a steal, a block. By the way, he's only playing 29 minutes a game. He is averaging 28 points per game. He's scoring damn near a point per minute on 65% shooting from the field and 40% shooting from three on like no attempts. Last night, Giannis had 19 points, 14 rebounds, 7 assists. He was a minus 11 on the court, and he shot 8 for 11 from the field. So, again, I do have to reiterate this. What Giannis is doing right now is unheard of. Because in all actuality, Giannis should be averaging about 40 points per game. And I'm saying that because of how efficient he is and how good he is at getting to the basket. But right now, he's looking human. And Giannis has never looked human in his career. By that, I mean he's not barreling to the hoop right now. He's doing it on fast breaks, sure. But in the half-court offense, he's settling for mid-ranges. He's passing it up to Ryan Rollins and Miles Turner. And right now, it's just not working. This team has lost 5 out of their last 7 games. And he keeps changing his mind every week. I want to be in Milwaukee. I don't want to be in Milwaukee. I want to be in. So at this point right now, I'm more so stunned that this trade isn't going to happen. It's not going to happen. We're going to be in the summertime, and that's when the summer is going to be dominated by Giannis headlines. I don't know where Giannis will go. I don't know. We've heard that his preferred destination is New York. And I can promise you guys one thing. If there's one thing I know, it's basketball, okay? And with the way basketball works is if you guys understand one thing, it's that star-heavy teams do not win anymore. They don't win. Otherwise, we'd be talking about the Lakers being a favorite. We'd be talking about any other team that just has 2-3 stars, the Clippers being a favorite. You're noticing that the star-heavy teams don't win. And then somebody in the TikTok named Dom Ferrioli came out and said, OKC literally just won. Celtics won the year before. So thank you for proving my point that you're stupid and don't know the sport of basketball. These are all deep NBA teams. Teams with depth win the titles now. They can have a superstar on the top. You need 3 qualifications to be a dynasty now in today's NBA. And by dynasty, I mean at least winning 1 ring. You need a superstar. You need an elite second man. And you need an elite third man. You also need depth. You need a bench. That's how you win in today's NBA. Let's start with last year. Thank you, Mr. Dom Ferrioli and the TikTok coming in with negative ball knowledge, showing that you do not know the sport of basketball. The Thunder are the deepest team in the NBA. They won last year and they're favorites to win this year. The Celtics won the year previously. They were ridiculously deep with their superstars. The year before that, the Nuggets won. That was the second best Nuggets team we've ever seen. Second to this year right now. They were unbelievably deep. Had bench production all around. The year before that, you had the Warriors. You were so deep. Otto Porter Jr., whatever happened to him, was looking like a star on their team where he could come off the bench or start whatever they needed from him. The year before that, shall we continue? We don't need to continue. You guys get the point. Depth wins championships now, not stars. So when I talk about Giannis going to New York and you have a team led by Jalen Brunson and Giannis Antetokounmpo, who else do you have? Because Cat is gone in that deal. OG is gone in that deal. So you're left with, and Kolek and Deuce, one or the other. And you don't have any picks to trade. So you're telling me it'll be Brunson, Mikal, Giannis, and maybe Josh Hart if you can manage to keep him? Who's their bench? You can't afford one. Your bench will be riddled with veteran minimums. That's not a team that's going to win a championship. That's not a team that would win at all. So when I tell you that trading for players, it sounds fine on paper because you see Giannis Antetokounmpo in a blue and orange jersey. But when you look at this team, what do they have? You're going to win a chip with having players on the bench that aren't really NBA players? New York already doesn't have a bench. They already don't have a bench. So then you're going to go ahead and trade your top-heavy guys for what? So that was just one example. That was one, okay? I want to bring up another one. The reason why I believe Giannis would fit best on two specific teams is quite obvious, ladies and gentlemen. I just got told, by the way, in the TikTok, Miles McBride is like the best bench player in the league. Miles McBride isn't a top 10 bench player in the league. Jason Canerva in the TikTok. He's not a top 10 bench player in the league. So the fact that you're coming in and telling me that tells me that you're a delusional Knicks fan. I want to give a shout out to Authentaholics for leaving the TikTok stream and coming through to the Twitch stream. Maybe we'll do that in a future podcast. We'll talk about the top 10 bench players in the NBA. Maybe we'll do that. I want to give a shout out to Authentaholics. Thank you for the follow on Twitch. Shout out to you for leaving the TikTok and coming through to the Twitch stream. That means a lot. You saw Otto Porn, you're walking at a walking clinic. Well, I hope he's okay. I hope he's all right. Let me continue with this talk. There's two teams in my mind that would fit, not only fit Giannis, but will also fit for the next few years. And they have a way better package than the New York Knicks. It's the Oklahoma City Thunder. Nobody wants to hear that. And it's the San Antonio Spurs. Both of these teams have picks. Both of these teams have young talent. Both of these teams have a lot to offer for a player in Giannis. Thunder would give up J-Dub and Aaron Wiggins and a couple picks. Bucks will be happy because they still have a million picks. The Spurs they would demand Dylan Harper. They might demand Stephon Castle. I think they'd want Dylan Harper over Stephon Castle. And they'd also demand other players for contracts. The Spurs would be more centered around picks. The Thunder would be more centered around getting a player in J-Dub's caliber and picks. So you're trying to tell me that the Thunder's who would you guys rather have? Let's be so real. Let's all talk. Let's all take a quick time out. And again, Dom Ferrioli is staying true to being a moron in the TikTok, saying you're talking about not making super teams, and then you say Giannis should go to the Thunder. Because the Thunder would then have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, AJ Mitchell, Cason Wallace, Isaiah Joe, Chet Holmgren, Isaiah Hartenstein, and then their bench is still fueled. So again, I do have to repeat. Oh man, what's his name? What's this guy's name? Dom Ferrioli right now is spam reporting me on TikTok. So our viewership is going to be lower today. I appreciate everybody who's watching in the TikTok, but I'm probably going to get banned for my NBA talk. So if you guys want the stream to continue, be sure to swing right on into the Twitch stream. I'd like to give a shout out to Authentaholics, Benty Mark, and Real Brownface for leaving the TikTok and coming through to the Twitch stream. Dom Ferrioli's upset that I called him dumb, so he's spam reporting me in the TikTok. So I'm probably going to get banned on there. If you guys are enjoying the stream, now's the perfect time to come through to the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. I appreciate everybody coming through. It really means a lot because we're going to get banned from TikTok. I'm just letting everybody know. So let's continue with this talk. Again, I do need to reiterate, OKC has the best to offer, and the Spurs have the best young talent to offer. I do not believe the Knicks should make a trade for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I don't think so. Because when you look at all of these teams and what they can offer, you're getting back Cat, you're getting back OG, you're getting back too much, you're giving up too much for one player. Okay? The Knicks' issue right now is obviously internal. They have a great basketball team. They're lacking defense with Jalen Brunson and Karl-Anthony Towns. So if you want to move Cat, you got to get a player to replace Cat. And it sucks because you had a player to replace Cat and Julius Randle, but you went and got Cat. Okay? So I'm going to say this one more time. Giannis is 100% out of Milwaukee this summer. 100%. 100%. It's not going to happen it's not going to happen during the season before the deadline. That's not what's going to happen. It's going to happen when the season ends and it's in the offseason. Again, I do have to reiterate myself. You can see the viewers in the TikTok dropping right now. That's because TikTok restricted my live views. So they are no longer showing this stream to anybody else on TikTok. So I do have to repeat myself. I'm going to get banned on TikTok, so be sure, guys, to leave that stream and come through to the Twitch. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. The stream is continuing over here. I'd love to see y'all come through to the Twitch. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. Link in my bio, ladies and gentlemen. Come on in and join the Discord as well. So I got to end this talk about Giannis, but I am going to end it with this. We all know how great this player is. We all know. But only a couple teams in this league can trade for Giannis and not deplete their entire roster. That's the Spurs. That's the Oklahoma City Thunder. And I'm willing to listen to other teams if you guys have any other suggestions. But it's not the New York Knicks. It's not the Miami Heat. It's not the Golden State Warriors. It's the Spurs and it's OKC. To be honest, the Jazz could also do it. The Jazz could also do it. The Jazz have 1 million picks. They could easily give up. They would have to give up Keontae George, which they probably don't want to do that. There's not really other packages that you can look at and say, yes, this is the one. Wolves, no, they don't have enough. They don't have if they still had an NAW, they might have had enough. Hawks, it would have to involve Jalen Johnson, so I wouldn't do that. Hornets, please, that's not happening. Giannis, you are now a Sacramento King. Yes. Raptors, no. It's the Spurs and OKC. It's the Spurs and OKC. That's the unfortunate truth. Yo, Sin Remy, thank you so much for the follow on Twitch. I appreciate you very, very much. I'd love for you to leave that. I'd love for more of you guys to leave that stream and come through to the Twitch stream, guys. Let's go ahead and move on to my next topic of discussion. We're going to stay with the trade talks, okay? We're going to stay with the trade talks. So I asked a couple members of my live crew to sort of tell me their ideal trades that they would like to make for their teams. And now I'm here to tell you, let's talk about these and see if you guys are educated or just acting on impulse, okay? So the first one comes from a Hornets fan. He said LaMelo for picks, to be honest. He said maybe to the Heat for Hero and Wiggins. And then he said maybe we can do Zion as well. LaMelo for Zion. Now, I wanted to talk about that in particular, okay? One of my members in my Discord server suggested that trade for the Hornets. He's ready to move on from LaMelo Ball, and he suggested Zion Williamson. He suggested Hero and Wiggins. And he's just suggesting something to just move off of LaMelo. He doesn't trust him as a player. He doesn't trust them, especially after last night's game. We'll get into that in a bit later. LaMelo came off the bench and decided to shoot 1 for 15. 1 for 15. Looked like me in my rec league last night. Now, here's the thing about the Charlotte Hornets. When you go to the team payrolls in the NBA, they're in a good spot. They're 24th right now. They're not in a bad spot, right? Especially after 2028. They're in a really good spot. On their books, they only have 48 million. So like their books expire basically next season, okay? So when you look at the Hornets themselves, what can they do in order to not sink themselves in a trade like that? So in my honest opinion, moving from LaMelo Ball would be the best case scenario for the Charlotte Hornets. Even if you want to go and get Zion, that's fine. But LaMelo is the reason why the Charlotte Hornets team is stuck in purgatory. They're not mediocrity. They're stuck in purgatory. I understand what LaMelo does for this team. I understand all that. The best ability is availability. And I believe it's time to move off of LaMelo Ball. He's fun. The kids love him, but he does not play winning basketball. In fact, when he does play basketball, it's very rare. So I think that's a great move for their books, one, and their future. I think that's a great move. Now, we have another suggestion from a Pelicans fan. And he said Heat receives Zion Williamson and Jordan Hawkins. Pels receive Terry Rozier and Simone Fontecchio with Khalil Ware, a 2026 Heat first, top 8 protected. And the Pels get off of Williamson's contract, ending the Zion era in New Orleans, and have to pick in the draft along with a skilled big to play next to Queen, Fears, and Trey on the same timeline. Trey steps up as the leader, and Pelicans and Zion can move forward with their respective careers. And I think that's a great suggestion from my Pels fan, Liam. Let me read this message from Mark. He's new into the Twitch stream. He said, Melo just want to have fun. He's not really a champion-minded player. You could trade him to New Orleans, Wizards, or Clip. I fully agree. And he wants to go to the Clippers, so I'd say why not just ship him there? So That's a lot for Zion, right? That's a lot. So let's just say straight up Zion for hero and have a good day, because you're not getting Khalil Ware in that mix. There's just no chance. Now, unfortunately, I do have to end the TikTok stream because TikTok restricted my live access because I was getting spam reported for calling a gentleman in there dumb. So I'm going to end the TikTok. If you guys want to enjoy the stream, be sure to swing back into the Twitch. That's JZ Uncut on Twitch. The link is in my bio, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to restart that stream just in a couple minutes. So let's continue Twitch and YouTube. Shout out you guys watching over there. With what the Hornets are capable of, I truly believe that moving off of LaMelo, all of a sudden their future would look very bright. Because you have Miles Bridges still. You still have Brandon Miller, who, again, availability is the best ability. You also have Con Knips, who's incredible in his own right. Now, something that makes me nervous with the New Orleans Pelicans when we're talking about Zion is until they move off of Zion, this team has no present. This team has no future. Hell, they barely even have a past. The New Orleans Pelicans right now and what they're dealing with Zion Williamson's BBW lover, BBL lover. He's terrifying to look at this point in time. Last night during the Pistons, he left because of an illness. People were starting to think that he got traded mid-game, but I don't know. There's some flu going around in the NBA right now. And my biggest issue with the Pelicans is Zion Williamson. So last night, Trey Murphy got clamped up by Asar Thompson. With all due respect, I'm sorry, Trey Murphy. You just put up your one of the worst games of the year. He had 17 points, but shot 6 for 19 and 2 for 9 from 3. Asar Thompson just put him on clamps. So when you look at this team, New Orleans, and what they have so many moves to make. And yet the GM, Joe Dumars, comes out recently and says, yeah, we're not looking to trade this guy. We're not looking to trade that guy. We're not looking to trade that guy. And then I'm starting to think to myself, guys, how do you have so many untouchable players as the worst team in the NBA right now? You are the worst team in the association, and you have 5 untouchables? You have 5 untouchables as the worst team in the NBA. Are we serious? I want to give a special shout out to J-Dot. Thank you so much for the follow on Twitch, Brody. I appreciate you a lot. How do you have 5 untouchables on a team with 10 wins in this season? Joe Dumars was one hell of a player, but my God, has he made so many dumb mistakes as a GM. Calling back to the Pistons, he drafted Darko Milicic instead of Carmelo Anthony, Dwayne Wade, or Chris Bosh. He also signed Josh Smith to an insane contract. Charlie Villanueva, Ben Gordon. Joe Dumars is washed. He should have just enjoyed his cushy job at the team's office instead of going to the Pelicans front office to ruin yet another franchise. Joe Dumars is a very egotistical man, and he's very sensitive. And so what he's doing now is putting his fingerprints on this team, but his fingerprints are full of shit. So, I'll say this much. If I were a Pelicans fan, actually, if I were a team that had Jordan Poole as a player on my team, I would switch fan bases. Watching Jordan Poole last night have 11 points, a turnover, and shooting 4 for 17 from the field, 0 for 7 from 3 would be my 13th reason why. I am sick of talking about the New Orleans Pelicans because it infuriates me. When you look up and down this roster, you have so many pieces to move. Ladies and gentlemen. I've went over this 100 times. Let me just show you. Jose Alvarado, trade him. Sadiq Bey, trade him. Jordan Hawkins, nobody wants him, but trade him. Herb Jones, trade him. Kayvon Looney, trade him. Trey Murphy, at this point, keep him and trade everybody else. DeJounte Murray, trade him. Evie Missy, trade him. I like Peavy, keep him. Poole, trade him to the Shanghai Sharks. And Zion Williamson, trade him. At this point in time, ladies and gentlemen, you have no draft picks. You do not have a pick. You are the worst team in the NBA. You need to trade. Guys, I'm going so far as to say the team that needs to trade the most before the deadline is not the Sacramento Kings, is not the Dallas Mavericks, it's not the New York Knicks, it's not the Pistons, it's not the Nets, it's not the Suns, it's not the Lakers, it's not the Heat, it's not the Grizzlies, it's the New Orleans Pelicans. There's one team that I look at and say they have no future. At this point in time, as you're a team that has no draft picks, it is time to be tough and to make a move. And if they don't, they're in even more trouble than they are right now. Which leads me into my next point. I'd like to talk about the Dallas Mavericks as far as trade talks go. They're one of the teams yesterday that I was talking about that they're one of the teams that you would expect to blow it up, and yet they haven't talked, right? Because they keep going on these little 3-game win streaks. Over and over and over again, the Dallas Mavericks keep going on these 3-game win streaks. And that's sort of what's kept them in the side of like, hey, we can bring Kyrie Irving back and maybe we can make the play-in. There's no point in doing so. Because when you look up and down this roster, your best player on this team is 19 years old in Cooper Flag. He's 19 years old. He's 19, guys. Let's look at the ages real quick on their 2 best players and health concerns. Kyrie Irving is coming off of an ACL injury. Kyrie Irving is also 33 years old. Anthony Davis hasn't been healthy in 3 years. And he is also 32 years old, turning 33. So when you look up and down this roster, you're like, oh, damn, those are really all the old guys. Yeah, but here's the thing. You have so many players that have value right now. You can trade so many of these players other than Klay Thompson. Of course, he's also old, and Dwight Powell. So let's look at this roster and talk about who they should move and who they should keep. You're keeping Max Christie, young player, straight shooter, and he looks great next to Cooper Flag. Keep him. You got to steal from him. Trade Anthony Davis. We all know that. You're going to get pennies on the dollar, but at least you can move him and start fresh. Dante Exum, waive him. Cooper Flag, obviously build around him. Daniel Gafford, trade him to the Celtics. Jaden Hardy, keep him. He's a cheap contract. Yes, we did, Ammo. Kyrie Irving, trade him. There's no reason in keeping this guy. Trade him. A team will want him. Trade him. Trade him. Derek Lively II, I'm afraid to say what my honest opinion on Derek Lively is. TikTok is telling me to shut up because they're probably a Mavs fan and they don't want to tank this year, but that is the only hope for your future. There's no sense in keeping Kyrie Irving. His timeline does not align with Cooper Flag. It does not align. You guys need to think about this real quick. Cooper Flag, it takes the average superstar in today's NBA about 6 to 10 years to win a championship. Okay. So when you look at this lineup, in six years, Anthony Davis is going to be 40. In 6 years, Kyrie Irving is going to be 40. Their timelines do not align. So what you want to do is trade your talented players who are on expensive contracts and rebuild around Cooper Flag. Mavs fans, I know this hurts to hear, but this is what you have to do, because after this coming year, the Mavericks don't have a pick until 2030. I got to repeat myself, CTL snap in the TikTok stream. I understand Kyrie could have a couple good years left, but you do not have a pick until 2030. So at this point, you need to start over. Klay Thompson's on a sizable contract. Move that. I think it's, 4 years, 80 million? He took a pay cut to play with Luka Doncic. They need to rebuild. And I got to be honest, Derek Lively, I'm sorry to say this, he's not going to be the same. They rushed him back from his injury, and he's sort of damaged goods at this point. You're not going to trade him because he's on a rookie contract. You're going to keep him. But I have to regurgitate. I have to reiterate. I don't care how redundant this sounds. Cooper Flag is 19 years old. You say he needs a vet, and that's more than fine. But as a young player, you are 19. It doesn't matter. You're not going to win this year. You're not going to win next year. You're not going to win the year after that. What you're doing is setting yourself up for year 4 and year 5. Prime example would be Cade Cunningham for me. He had no vets on his team. It was all young guys for his first 3 years. And it was bad year after bad year after bad year. He also was injured in his second year. Your goal is to have a couple veterans by year 3, by year 4 for Cooper Flagg. Right now, there's no reason in having these expensive ass contracts. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to show you one thing, and this will shut you up. The Mavericks are 4th in salary. 4th. The Mavericks are in their second apron next year. They will be entering their second apron next year, guys. This is serious. They do not have a pick until 2030. Go get you draft picks. The Mavericks next year are going to be tied for second most expensive year in the entire, most expensive team in the entire NBA. I'm assuming the Cavs are going to make a move. The Magic are also there. They are going to be the second most expensive roster next year. And what do they have to show for it? A championship level team? No. No. So you need to move from Klay Thompson, from Anthony Davis, from Daniel Gafford, from Kyrie Irving, from Caleb Martin, keep Ryan Nembhard. You need to move from D'Angelo Russell, and PJ Washington can be the one vet on that team. I will allow you to keep PJ Washington. I'm getting told from Ronnie in the TikTok stream, who just so happens to be sticking up the middle finger and wearing a do-rag in his profile picture. He said, they're definitely championship level. You're wild. Guys, I'm being told right now that a team led by a 19-year-old, by Anthony Day-to-Day Davis, and Kyrie Irving coming off of an ACL injury is a championship level team. They're not even in the play-in. They're not even in the play-in. I understand Mavericks fans are hurt. I understand you guys are hurt. You guys traded Luka Doncic. I understand. But it's time to move on. You have Cooper Flagg. He said injuries all season, even to Flagg. And you're going to get them next year as well. This is a 34-year-old Anthony Davis who's had 18 injuries in his 9 months as a Dallas Maverick. 18 injuries in 9 months. And then you're also relying on a 34-year-old point guard coming off of an ACL tear. So, I'm going to reiterate this again. The Dallas Mavericks, at best, if everyone's healthy, could be a play-in team next year. So, I'd like to just finish off by saying, you have the second most expensive roster in the NBA next year. The second most. The second most. The second most. And you're telling me that's a championship level team. 19-year-old Cooper Flagg is going to lead y'all to the promised land. And you guys are telling me to peep the stats when he's healthy. I understand Anthony Davis is a great player. I understand that. I'm not denying Anthony Davis as a player when he's healthy, but he's not. He's not. I watch almost every single Mavs game, and it's not going to work. But hey, you know what? Who am I to convince y'all? Who am I to convince y'all? The books are all I need. When you look at this list and you see the teams that are on the top of this list, these are the teams that need to make a move. The Cavs, they need to make a move. They're in the second apron next year. The Dallas Mavericks, they're in the second apron next year. Are either of those teams championship level? No. Let's look at the other teams. The New York Knicks, are they championship level? Not yet. The Timberwolves, they're also going to be top 5 most expensive team next year. Are they championship level? No. The Orlando Magic are going to have the second most expensive roster next year. Are they championship level? No. The Denver Nuggets, they're going to be the third most expensive team next year. Are they championship level? Yes. There's the difference. You have a superstar and a team built well around him. So for you Mavericks fans that are upset in the TikTok stream, you can go ahead and stay in the TikTok stream. TikTok, for those of you that are enjoying the basketball talk, be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. Actually, I'm just now being told the Dallas Mavericks don't have a pick until 2031. But you're telling me that you're going to win it all with Anthony Davis and Kyrie Irving next to Cooper Flag. They don't have a pick until 2031. So here's what I think is going to happen. Klay Thompson is going to get traded. They're going to trade Klay Thompson. They can get value back. In fact, my Pistons will probably give up a second-round pick and a young player like Marcus Sasser or something for Klay Thompson. I think that's great for what the Pistons need. They get a prolific shooter. Klay Thompson's been lights out this year. As far as Anthony Davis goes, all trade talks have gone out the window because he's always hurt. So if you're telling me, I think Mike Dunleavy said it best 2 days ago. He said this regarding Jonathan Kuminga. He said, the thing about demanding a trade is there has to be a demand. To demand something, there needs to be a demand. And Anthony Davis, after he got hurt again, has proved that he has zero value across the entire NBA. I'm being told right now from the TikTok. In fact, I'm done reading the TikTok stream. If you guys want to talk to me, be sure to swing on into the Twitch. Why move Klay when clearly Max Christie has benefited from Klay? This team is not even in the play-in. This team is 24th in points, 24th in steals, 21st in field goals attempted, 27th in three-pointers made, 26th in three-pointers attempted, 25th in three-point percentage, 27th in rebounding. They're giving up the second most points in the entire NBA. So they have the second to worst defense in the NBA. They're giving up the seventh most threes in the NBA. They're giving the eighth best three-point percentage to their opponents in the NBA. They're turning the ball over the fourth most in the NBA. They're getting the ninth least assists in the NBA. They're 24th in net rating. I'm done talking about the Dallas Mavericks. Clearly, I have some sensitive and delusional Dallas Mavericks fans in the TikTok. So again, I do have to repeat myself. If you guys are enjoying the stream, be sure to do me a favor, leave the TikTok and swing on into the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. And then my last case in point that I talked about briefly were the New York Knicks, right? The New York Knicks right now, they smacked the Nets. That was an unbelievable game last night. They almost doubled their points. They limited them to 66 points, and they looked like a basketball team last night. Unfortunately, on the other side, the Brooklyn Nets didn't look like a basketball team last night. They weren't showing any effort on offense or defense, and they were looking miserable. But what I will say is give credit where credit is due. The New York Knicks came in and punched them in the teeth. Brunson didn't have an efficient game, but he still had 20 points, and he moved the ball around. Josh Hart, 11 and 9. Karl Anthony Towns, not a good game, but he was efficient at least, to say the least. So when you look at the New York Knicks, I know a lot of fans have been talking about the whole Giannis ordeal, but I hope I explained to you guys that the worst trade the New York Knicks could make would be for Giannis Antetokounmpo. That would bury their franchise for years to come. They don't have the arsenal. They don't have the repertoire to trade for a Giannis without giving up their entire team. I told y'all about this for weeks now. This team, NBA now is not focused on stars. If you have two stars, cool, but what about everybody else? And when you look at the New York Knicks, what they have to trade to get Giannis is not worth it for the New York Knicks. Your team will be worse. Yes, you'll have Giannis, but guys, let's not forget, Giannis doesn't play more than 60 games every year. Okay? Giannis is always hurt now in the playoffs. And part of the reason is because he's shouldering so much weight in Milwaukee. But the unfortunate thing here is your team is going to be Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, and Giannis, and Mikal Bridges. So when you look at this team, who else are they going to have? Because you're probably going to have to give up a Deuce McBride, and you're probably going to have to give up a Tyler Kolek, and whatever picks you have remaining, because you don't have any. First of all, the Milwaukee Bucks wouldn't agree to a deal like this. Second of all, the New York Knicks wouldn't have anything after the Giannis trade. Do you guys remember I want to talk about this. Do you guys remember the Carmelo Anthony? Some of you guys might be too young. I remember, I think I was in 6th grade when Carmelo Anthony forced that trade to New York. And Carmelo Anthony's contract was up. I believe he had a player option for that last year. So what Carmelo did is the New York Knicks were really clicking. I remember that team. It was Danilo Gallinari. It was Raymond Felton, Amari Stoudemire. That team was a lot of fun. I think even Jarrett Jack. That team was a lot of fun, and they were good, man. They were good. They were a top 4 team in the East. They were killing it. I was rooting for that Knicks heavy. And then Carmelo forced that trade from Denver to New York. Yeah, Wilson Chandler, great comms. When he could have just waited for the offseason to just go and sign with the New York Knicks. Instead, he didn't want to be there for another 3 months, so he forced that trade, and the Knicks tore their team apart to get Carmelo Anthony. I think they won 1 playoff series in his entire career. Am I right or wrong? Or as a New York Knick, I think he won 1 playoff series, and his career was over. All we remember Carmelo Anthony now is his triple threat pivot and pulling up for a 3 or 2. Now, this is my point. They blew up the New York Knicks to get a superstar. That's what they did. Do you want to do that again? No, you shouldn't. Giannis has 1 more deal on his contract, I think. If Giannis truly wants out and you want to go to New York, that's the worst destination you can pick, because this team will do that. This team will trade everybody for Giannis. They did it before for Carmelo Anthony. You bet your ass they'll do it for Giannis Antetokounmpo as well. And I think that'll be a big, ginormous mistake. I don't think they should do that. And then, yeah, of course, there's a bunch of minor deals that come to my mind that teams are also thinking of. The Pistons are in trade talks about like Klay Thompson, Michael Porter Jr., Trey Murphy. The Warriors are in conversation about DeMar DeRozan, Michael Porter Jr. What are my thoughts about the Pistons? Come to the Twitch stream. NBA Fun Boys, shout out to you for leaving the TikTok and coming through to the Twitch stream, my boy. We're very happy to have you here, my man. Welcome. Very happy to have you. Welcome to the Twitch. Other teams. The Houston Rockets are on talk about getting a point guard. What point guard? I don't know. I'm not sure. Ronnie in the TikTok is very upset that I mentioned his do-rag and his middle finger in his profile picture over in there in the TikTok. He said, address why you mentioned do-rag and middle finger, which you were wrong about when talking basketball. My apologies, Ronnie. I'm sorry. Should have kept it about basketball. But I'm sorry. When I see somebody spam idiotic takes calling the Mavericks competitors and contenders, I tend to think you're dumb. So I should have just insulted your lack of ball knowledge than you yourself. My apologies, Ronnie. I'm sorry. You don't know ball, but you're a handsome fella. So other teams that are in trade talks as well. You have the Cleveland Cavaliers talking about Darius Garland and Jared Allen. I've been talking about this team a lot, and something that needs to stand out more is when you trade a Darius Garland, you may as well just say goodbye to Evan Mobley as well. And that's not because I think that's a good move, but I think trading Darius Garland buries Evan Mobley on this team further. Evan Mobley's averaging a smooth 18-8, and that's what he's going to give you for the rest of his career. And if he's next to Donovan Mitchell and no Darius Garland, the stats speak for itself, y'all. Evan Mobley's one of the worst 4s in the NBA when Darius Garland's out. Okay? NBA Fun Boys asked me, what happened to Fred? Why are the Rockets looking for a PG? Because Fred is out. He tore his ACL, and he's out. Fatless Penguin, thank you so much for the follow on Twitch. I appreciate you very, very much. Shout out to you for leaving the TikTok stream and coming through to the Twitch stream, NBA Fun Boy. I appreciate you, my boy. Thank you. So again, I have to reiterate this. It's very confusing because Darius Garland gets Evan Mobley and Jared Allen involved. Did you guys know that the Cavs are undefeated when Jared Allen takes at least 10 shots in a game? Did y'all know that? This year, at least. Double X asked me a question. Might be a dumb question, but why would a top team want to trade if they're doing well? Like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a great question. So I'm assuming that you're talking about the Pistons, in that sense, talking about being a number 1 seed. Why would they want to make a trade? Now, I'm actually really happy that you asked that question, Double X, because here's the thing. As a Pistons fan, I can tell you everything that's right about the Pistons and everything that's wrong about the Pistons. Now, something that's very wrong about the Pistons is their lack of shooting and lack of ball handling outside of Cade Cunningham. Cade has a wrist injury. Cade also has a hip injury, and he also got sick yesterday. He's bearing a lot of weight. Okay. The Pistons right now, they were hoping when losing Dennis Schroeder, because he signed a massive contract in Sacramento for some stupid ass reason. They figured that Karis LeVert could be a good secondary ball handler off the bench. And Karis LeVert, I've showed you guys, is quite literally the worst signing for the Pistons since Josh Smith. I'd say Josh Smith. back in 2013, I think that was 2014, maybe. Karis LeVert over his last 10 games is averaging 17% from the 3-point line, and he's also shooting 30% from the field. So Karis LeVert has not turned out well, and they were hoping that would be the backup point guard, relying when Cade is on the bench, and that hasn't worked out. So the Pistons right now, they know that Dennis Jenkins and Marcus Sasser, Dennis Jenkins was on a 2-way deal, is better than Karis LeVert, but because JB has a crush on Karis LeVert, because of that, Karis LeVert's getting those minutes. You saw it last night. I don't know if you guys watched that game, but Dennis Jenkins started the game because Cade was out and Karis LeVert were out. Dennis Jenkins ended up with 17 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks, and shot 5 for 12 from the field. And that's not playing for 3 games. He's not a 2-way contract, and they have to offer him a contract before the deadline. Otherwise, we lose him. So that's one of the Pistons' biggest problems. Penguin came in. He must be a Pistons fan. Hell yeah, Penguin. Join the Discord as well, my boy. We need more Pistons fans. On top of that, the Pistons do not have enough shooting. In fact, I saw a tweet that I'm going to go ahead and show you guys. The Pistons right now are the 2nd worst 3-point shooting in the NBA. I also want to show you this fun stat. Fox isn't going to be available this year. These are the worst shooters in the entire NBA. The Pistons have Ron Holland, who's 5th worst, and Asar Thompson, who's the 10th worst. I have not talked about the Suns yet. If you keep asking about a team, that means I haven't talked about them. That's why you should stay in the Twitch stream. Nah, haha. Just to say, I'm just letting you know that. Just letting you know. Oh, I'm getting told right now. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. That Isaiah Stewart is hot ass. Isaiah Stewart leads the league in lowest field goal percentage against him. So he's the best defender in the NBA right now. So for any non-ball knowers, you can go back to the TikTok if you're coming in and just spamming nonsense, talking about Isaiah Stewart is hot ass. Isaiah Stewart is the best defensive presence in the NBA. In the paint. Isaiah Stewart has been prolific this year, and I want him to be starting next to Jalen Duren because the Pistons are undefeated when Jalen Duren and Isaiah Stewart start together in a game. He's shooting 36% from 3, 53% from the field, averaging 10 points, 5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, and 2 blocks per game. So anybody that says that Isaiah Stewart is hot ass, you don't know basketball. You just exposed yourself right on cue that you do not know the sport of basketball, Mr. Mark. My apologies, but you do not watch basketball. All you do is look at the box score because Isaiah Stewart is one of the highest impact players in the entire NBA. Isaiah Stewart should be the starting 4 instead of Tobias Harris next to Jalen Duren. When they do that, it stretches the floor even more, and the defense is a wall. Isaiah Stewart is a culture setter. If you don't like Isaiah Stewart, it's because he's like Dylan Brooks. It's because he's like Grayson Allen. It's because he's like these players that you wish they were on your team, but when they're against you, you hate them. I hate Dylan Brooks when we're up against him. When I watch the Suns, I love him. So the biggest issues right now for the Detroit Pistons is lack of shooting and lack of primary ball handling when Cade Cunningham is not on the court. Now, I want to reiterate this again. The Pistons are deep. They're very deep. They're 12 guys deep, 13 guys deep, 13. I'm being told that they would rather take Naz Reid over Isaiah Stewart. That is not a hot take whatsoever. That might be the general consensus for a casual's take. You know what? Let's go ahead and look at Naz Reid's averages this year. He's shooting 38% from 3, 14.5 points, 46% from the field, less than a block, less than a steal a game. And you know what's the craziest part about this? Naz Reid is making 4 times the amount of Isaiah Stewart, and he's giving you the same production. Except Isaiah Stewart is an actual trendsetter. He comes in and he's arguably the best defender in the NBA. If Isaiah Stewart was a starter, he's undisputed defensive player of the year. Undisputed, no doubt my mind. Undisputed best defensive player in the NBA if he's starting. You're comparing Naz Reid, whose contract is 4 times the amount of Isaiah Stewart. Every single team, all 30 teams in the NBA will take Isaiah Stewart over Naz freaking Reid. You can talk basketball with me, just don't sound idiotic, okay? Talk basketball with me. You can tell me you're not a fan of Stewart. Tell me why you're not a fan of him. Don't come in and spew nonsense to the community. Pistons need more shooting. That's going to get exposed into the playoffs. They are arguably one of the worst shooting teams in the NBA. That's the only thing they're bad at. If you look at all of their other stats right here, they're number 1, number 2 in everything in the league, defensively and offensively. Did you guys know that the Pistons are closer to the Thunder at the number 1 best defensive team than the third team is to us? Did you guys know that the Pistons right now are the number 1 team defensively in the year of 2026? Did you guys know they have the highest defensive rating, the highest offensive rating, 8 of their last 10 games? And do you know who those wins are against for the Pistons? The Pistons are now on a 4-game streak and have won 8 of their last 10. That includes wins over the Celtics, the Knicks, the Cavs, the Suns, and the Lakers. But Isaiah Stewart is hot ass. My last team I want to talk about are the Phoenix Suns. The Phoenix Suns have moves they can make, but I don't think you have to. And let me explain. The Phoenix Suns right now are barely clinging into the play. And if you have a bad game in the West, you get knocked out. And see, wait, before I move on, this all makes sense now. Mark came in and said, okay, I'm not a fan of Isaiah Stewart because he tried to beat up LeBron. You got me. Be honest with us. Because when you come into a Twitch stream and you come into my community and you spam nonsense, I know something happened and that's why you hate him. I know that. I understand that. But you need to put your biases to the side when you speak of NBA players. You need to put your biases to the side. I'm a Pistons fan. And even I will tell you, the Pistons are not going to win it all this year unless they make moves. And that's okay. They're not a win now team. They're ahead of schedule. This is my biggest point that I need to make. And I've said this a lot, so you guys are probably going to hear me say this again if you are watching here frequently. There's certain moves that you want to make as a team, okay? What makes me nervous about all this trade talk is that Pistons fans want Michael Porter Jr. He sounds great. He sounds like the ideal player for the Pistons, and that would put him over the top. But I need to talk about this real quick. The Pistons, you can think what you want, Master Planner. The Pistons right now have the lowest amount of money. They have the 4th least amount of money in their books. The 4th. I want to show you teams that are around the Pistons as far as contract goes. The Nets, the Jazz, the Wizards, and then the Grizzlies, Bulls, Hornets, Bucks, Hawks, Pacers are all above the Pistons as far as salaries goes. Okay? The Pistons are right there at 27th lowest contracts in the NBA. You trade for Michael Porter Jr. You extend Duren. You extend Asar Thompson. All of a sudden, with the addition of Michael Porter Jr., you're going to be in the top 10 most expensive contracts, most expensive salaries for next year. That's why I don't want to trade for Michael Porter Jr. Because all of a sudden, you are doing the win now mode. Win now. I'm going to show you guys some examples here. And for the man, Fatless Penguin, who came into the Twitch, that is a very generic take that a lot of Pistons fans take, and I'm going to disprove all of that. They want way too much for Lowry. Lowry also just doesn't play any defense. Trey Murphy, they want way too much for. Clay's the perfect spot that you just mentioned. Now, when you go with Michael Porter Jr. and you extend Duren and you extend Asar, that's a win now team. Your contract now, your salary as a team is now a win now team. Okay? That means you are rushing your timeline. Right now, the two teams that are ahead of their timeline are the San Antonio Spurs and the Detroit Pistons. The San Antonio Spurs right now have the 10th lowest books. The Pistons have the 4th lowest. The Pistons are the number 1 seed right now. They're ahead of schedule, far ahead of schedule. Their best players other than Cade are still on the rookie contracts. They are far ahead of schedule. You make that trade for Michael Porter Jr., you are in win now mode. Now I got to point out some teams that made those win now modes, and I want to show you where they're at now. Okay? Let's look at the New York Knicks. They're in win now mode. Okay? The New York Knicks, as we all know, are 3-11 in their last 14 games. and they're not looking like the team that we all thought they were going to be. They're in win now mode. If they don't win this year, they're never going to win. They need to win this year. This is their year. They made all the trades. This is their year. They plan on winning. Okay? I got to read this comment from a salty Heat fan that just came into the Twitch stream. I have to read it. Hey, bud, I know every time you talk about the Pistons, you act like they're the best team in the NBA. I can name you 5 teams they are better than your Pistons. I can name a few that are better than the Pistons. The Thunder, the Nuggets, the Celtics with Tatum. And I'll probably go with the Timberwolves as well. So yeah, I can name about 4 or 5 teams better than my Pistons as well. I'm not upset about that, Master Planner. Here's one thing that you need to learn, Master Planner. I know you're a mad Heat fan. I know you're upset. I know you're an upset Heat fan. I know that. I know you hate your life because the Miami Heat are not doing what you expected them to do. But don't come in here and insult my podcasting ability and say that I'm being biased and I think the Pistons are the best team in the NBA. I've never once said that. I've pointed out all of their flaws. I've pointed out all their issues. So don't come in here. Nobody thinks that you're right. Nobody agrees with you. You're a mad Heat fan, and I understand that. I understand that. I understand why you're upset, but don't, just because you're upset doesn't mean you should come at me and start spreading lies in my chat room, okay? Let me show you a couple examples, again, of win now teams that need to win now. They made those trades. They need to win now or they're over. They're over. Well, one of those teams I said were the New York Knicks. They have to win this year or it's not going to work. It's not going to work, okay? If they trade, with all their trades, they need to win now or it's not going to work. Another team that needs to win next year or it's not going to work is the Orlando Magic. The Orlando Magic now have the second most salary next year. The second highest salary next year. The Orlando Magic are going to be paying $215 million. Now, when you look at the Orlando Magic team, does that scream championship-ready team? They haven't won a playoff series yet. Neither have the Pistons. So with the Desmond Bane trade, they traded their entire future, 4 picks and a pick swap. They traded their entire future for Desmond Bane. Do you guys think the Orlando Magic can win it all next year? Because they need to win next year. Otherwise, they rushed their timeline and now they're failing. This is how the NBA works, ladies and gentlemen. I am showing you things that normal, casual NBA fans like Master Planner 456 don't understand. By making these big home run trades, sometimes you only need a single or a double. The Pistons could go for Klay Thompson. That's a nice single. You just throttled yourselves into automatically going into the conference finals this year. But what the Orlando Magic did is none of us even believe that they can win one playoff series, other than my boy Mark and Free Leezy in here. The Orlando Magic made a win now play and rushed their entire timeline. So now when the Orlando Magic are losing next year, they need to either trade Paolo Banchero or Franz Wagner because they did it to themselves. They did that to themselves. You did not need to rush your timeline. Instead, you went for Bane, who is a good player, but he's not a championship needle mover. He's never proven to be that. He's a good, reliable scorer, and that's okay. That's a good piece to have. But when you make that trade too soon, you rushed your timeline. So now their window is this big when it was this big. Which is why when I talk about the Knicks, when I talk about the Magic, it's all recency bias. We have to overreact to what's happening now because they overreacted. They went and made those moves. They closed their window so small to win now. And when they don't win now, you have to be critical. Which is why when I talk of the Pistons, when people ask me questions about the Detroit Pistons, I tell them, make a marginal move. The books are going to get expensive next year. You're going to sign Jalen Duren to a 4 or 5 year deal. You're going to give Asar Thompson his extension. There's no need in adding a Michael Porter Jr. right now when we don't even... Let's see what we got. Let's see what we got. The Knicks could have done the Giannis trade. That's one thing that you need to let sink in. The Knicks could have done the Giannis trade. Had they not win now and went for Mikal Bridges, they would have Giannis right now. That's something that you all need to understand. 5 picks for Mikal Bridges. Those 5 picks and Karl Anthony Towns could have got you Giannis Antetokounmpo. That's all. You could have a team of Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Giannis Antetokounmpo at the 4, and Mitchell Robinson at the 5, or just some other center. You could have had Giannis, but they rushed it and went for Mikal Bridges. Which is why when I talk about these teams, like the Suns, you do not need to rush things. You already rushed things by trading for Bradley Beal with Kevin Durant. You guys still have a top 15 most expensive roster because of Devin Booker's contract being so large. I think this is one of the teams that need to stay steady and trust what you're building, because now the Phoenix Suns have a culture thanks to Dillon Brooks. Okay, I said today was going to be a short podcast, but man, we dove deep into some conversations, y'all. That's going to be a wrap. Twitch stream, be sure to stick around. Twitch, do not go anywhere. I didn't even talk about any of the games last night, but who cares? They're all blowouts, right? Except for the Grizzlies game, but Ja Morant missed the game-winning shot. Yeah, there's no need to talk about last night's games. Guys, tomorrow's going to be a very fun podcast. Tomorrow we're going to be looking at all of the projected over or unders that the casinos and FanDuel and DraftKings had for all of the teams in the NBA. We're going to look at what they're all projected to be and where they're at right now and whether or not they're on pace to surpass that over-under. Okay? So tomorrow's episode is going to be very long. It's going to be very fun. We're going to be talking about all 30 teams tomorrow. If you're upset that you're a Clippers fan or a Kings fan or a Brooklyn Nets fan, guess what? We're talking about you guys tomorrow. Every single fan out there, we're talking about your team. All right? So you do not want to be late. The podcast begins at 9 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. Twitch stream, do stick around. Do not go anywhere. Stick around. Don't leave. TikTok, YouTube, that's going to be a wrap for today. If you guys want more stream, YouTube and TikTok, I'm talking to you. Be sure to swing on into the Twitch stream. That's Jay-Z Uncut on Twitch. The link is in my bio. All right, guys, podcast listeners, be sure to leave a 5-star rating and review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I got nothing left to say except for thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And as always, guys, thank you for watching/listening. I'll see y'all tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern. Twitch chat, stick around. All right. Yikes.